Hey everybody, this is part two. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had a time limit. Okay, so we made our basic HTML tags to set up the page. We talked about how the title will put a title inside the Google browser tab. So that would be this right here where it says new tab. That's what goes in the title tags, and if I put a different title in my page, I'll get whatever I put in here. Inside the body section, we talked about how all the content in your web page goes in here. So everything you want to display on the web page goes in between your opening and closing body tags. Just pasting this in here. We'll talk about what each one of these do. This is the H1 heading tag. And you can see it starts off with an opening H1 tag and a closing H1 tag. The H1 is basically a way to make your text bigger. So until we get into CSS where we can start formatting text size and fonts and colors with CSS, we can use something like H1 if we want like bigger text on the page. So that's what this is doing. So this is making a heading called "This is my first web page." Don't confuse the heading on the page with the head section. Two completely different things. The head section is simply a part of the file that stores different things. Like we'll put our CSS in there later. We could put program code in there later. Don't confuse the heading, which is an H1 tag, with the head section. This head section is not visible on the page when you open it in the web browser. This will put a heading on top of the page. And then we have two paragraphs. So in regular size font, we want to write two paragraphs. So we have an opening P tag, we have a closing P tag. Whatever we put in between, so whatever sentence or sentences we put in between will be considered part of the paragraph. So I have two paragraphs on here. I have an opening and closed set of P tags for this sentence. I have an opening and closed set of P tags for this sentence. So this is a web page. There's not much going on here. There's just some text. There's no formatting. There's no styles or anything. As far as colors or any of that. But it is a web page, or it can be a web page. It's not yet. We have to save this. So this is really, really important. When you create web pages, you have to maintain an organized file system on your computer. So this is how we could do it. So from Notepad, we can go to File, Save As. Now, my Save As defaults to Documents. This is where you should really store everything. If you don't see Documents here in the address, then pick it off the side, choose it off the sidebar here. You want to make a folder for this class because the fourth quarter we're really just doing HTML stuff. So you're going to have multiple projects, and a lot of those projects will have multiple files and folders. So you're going to have to organize it. You can't just save everything to Documents and call it good. You have to create folders and subfolders. If you don't, your pictures won't display, your links won't work. So we can make a folder for this class. I'm going to right-click inside of Documents. I'm going to go to New. I'm going to call this folder Intro to Coding. Now, in my Intro to Coding folder, I want to save this project. So I'm also going to do is I'm going to make a separate folder for every project that I save inside of Intro to Coding. So I'm going to open Intro to Coding. I'm going to do the same thing now. I'm making a new folder. I'm going to call this my first web page. So in this folder, this is where I'll save my web page file. And the reason why I want a folder for it is because what if I had more than one web page? What if my first web page became my first website and I had like 4 or 5 pages on it? I want them all in the same folder. It's crucial because if you don't do that, your images won't display, your links won't work, and you'll see what I mean later on. So I'm going to open the My First Web Page folder. So right now we have this Notepad file that we want to save. It's got no name. We didn't give it a name yet, and it's a text document. So we want to call it index. That's just a naming practice. We have to give it an .html extension. That's what makes it a web page. If you don't do that, if you leave it as .txt, which will be there by default, then you will not have a web page. You'll just have a text file that will not open in Google Chrome or whatever browser you're using. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to set it to all files. So we got index.html. .html makes it a web page. Index is the name. .html is the type. So that's the file extension. Set it to all files, hit save. All right, this is a web page. So now if we find our file in Documents,